Today let us discuss about pyrexia or fever. Pyrexia we can also called as fever. Let us discuss definition of pyrexia, grades, types and converting scale. Okay, definition. Pyrexia. Pyrexia is nothing but if body temperature increases more than normal, that is called as pyrexia or fever. If body temperature increases more than normal, that is called as pyrexia or fever. In this there are three main grades are there. So the first one is low grade pyrexia or fever, and next one is high grade fever or pyrexia. Next one is dangerous pyrexia or dangerous fever or high fever you can say. So low fever or low grade fever, you can write low grade fever and high grade fever or dangerous grade fever. So why they are saying low grade means if the temperature is just above the 37 degree Celsius or see low grade fever बोले तो, so if it is more than 37.5 degree Celsius which is normal body temperature or 101 degree Fahrenheit, if more than 100 degree Fahrenheit, that is called as high grade. If it is in between 100 to 100 degree Fahrenheit, that is called as low grade fever. High grade fever means if the body temperature is more than 102 degree Fahrenheit or 104 degree Fahrenheit, that is called as high grade fever. And dangerous, it is more than high, that is called as dangerous fever or dangerous grade fever, that is more than 104 degree Fahrenheit to 106 degree Fahrenheit. So the definition of the pyrexia or fever is if the body temperature rises more than the normal range, that is called as pyrexia or fever. There are mainly three grades. The first one is low grade. If the body temperature is above the normal and below the 101 Fahrenheit, that is called as low grade. High grade 102 to 103 degree Fahrenheit. Dangerous grade fever is 104 to more than 104 to 106 degree Fahrenheit. Now let us see the types of fever. There are mainly 12 types of fevers. The first one is continuous fever. In the name itself, it is saying that the continuous means the temperature rises more than the normal and it stays continuously at least for few weeks or few days. Few days or few weeks it stays in that high temperature only. Temperature rises more than normal and stays for few days. Continuous fever in the types of fever, the first one is continuous fever. So continuous fever, what happens? The temperature rises more than normal range and in that level only, when it reaches to more than the normal range, it stays for weeks or days. In that high temperature only, it stays at least for weeks or days. And 1 degree Celsius difference, it may fall 1 degree. For example, if 101 degree Celsius, Fahrenheit, one person has body temperature. But in the evening, it may fall to 100 degree Fahrenheit, but not to the normal. It doesn't reach to the normal. For example of this one is typhoid fever. Example of this continuous fever is typhoid fever. Next type of fever, second one is remittent. Remittent fever increases more than the normal body temperature, and 2 degrees Celsius fluctuation. That means morning may be 1 or 2 degree Fahrenheit body temperature. In the evening that comes or falls down to the 100 degree Fahrenheit. That means from the morning or evening temperature fluctuation may be only 2 degrees Celsius, whereas in continuous fever only it was 1 degree Celsius fluctuation. But whereas here in remittent fever that fluctuation is around 2 degrees Celsius. Example of this one is tuberculosis, TB. Next type is intermittent fever. In the name itself we can see intermittent. That means there is a gap in between one fever period to another fever period. So here the sudden rise. Actually the body temperature may be like the person is normal in the morning, but suddenly his temperature rises in the evening and reaches to the peak level. Peak level, that is 39 to 40 degree Celsius. It reaches to the peak level, and so after reaching, what it happens, 1 or 2 days it stays at the peak level, and within 1 or another 3 days period it comes down. Understood? So for 1 or 2 days temperature stays. After these 2 days temperature comes down and gives the period of 1 to 3 days. 1 to 3 days you won't be having any fever. Again the temperature rises to the peak level within this 1 or 2 days with the gap. So for this fever example is malaria. You all know malaria fever. You all know this malaria fever is like, we will be saying, okay, no fever, however, like only 1 day fever was there and now I am quite normal. But suddenly within 1 or 2 days gap again it rises. That is the character of malaria fever, that is called as intermittent fever. If you know this classification of types of fever, you can diagnose yourself which type of fever I got. Understood? The next type is, fourth type is septic fever. Septic, in the name itself there is a lot of meaning. Septic means infection. Any infection in your body, if you have some infection, that it reflects in the form of increasing your body temperature. If your body temperature increases, remind that there may be some infection in your body, right? Any infection like tuberculosis or malaria, typhoid, headache, or like intestinal infections. So what is the first indication? Fever comes, because fever is nothing but the body's action against the invasion of microorganisms. So here the septic fever, when the infection occurs in the body temperature increases more than the normal body temperature and it rises more than 39 degree Celsius. For example of septic fever is tuberculosis. What do you mean by tuberculosis? The infection of the lung parenchyma by the Mycobacterium tuberculosis bacteria is called as tuberculosis. Next one is crisis fever. Crisis fever, there are two crisis fevers are there again in this. True crisis and false crisis. In this true crisis, body temperature falls down to the normal from very high body temperature, maybe like 106 degree Fahrenheit or 104 degree Fahrenheit. So if the body temperature falls suddenly from very high body temperature to the normal body temperature and it reaches to the normal, along with the patient's condition improvement, patients start feeling like okay, he's feeling okay, he's having like energy instead of like fatigue. And whereas false crisis fever, in the false crisis fever the body temperature falls down to the normal but patient condition does not improve. Patient is feeling sick still. So that is called as false crisis. If the patient condition improves along with the body temperature, it comes down, that is true crisis fever. If the body temperature comes down but the patient is still feeling sick, that means patient condition is not improved, then that is called as false crisis, because it is not giving the improvement in the patient condition. Then there is no matter in coming body temperature coming to the normal, right? Next type is inverted fever. In the inverted fever, name itself it is saying it is the reverse. What is there in the morning temperature, it is completely reverse to the evening temperature. Temperature rises in the morning and in the evening it falls to the normal range. So such type of fever we can see in the tuberculosis patient. Maybe or otherwise, if in the evening body temperature is there, then morning it comes down to the normal. That is called as inverted fever, reverse. If morning is temperature there, evening comes down. If evening temperature is there, morning comes down. Right? Example is tuberculosis. Next type is seventh one, irregular fever. In the name itself it is giving that the fever is irregular. That means fluctuations. Fluctuations in the morning, within the day, same day itself, there are many fluctuations in the body temperature. So if 10 o'clock body temperature is normal quite, and if it increases to 1 degree Celsius or degree Fahrenheit by 10 or 11 a.m. Again it falls to 12 p.m. Again it comes now down to the normal. So like that, many fluctuations takes place in the irregular fever. For example of this irregular fever is influenza. Influenza is, what do you mean by influenza? It is a cold type respiratory tract infection. Influenza is. So this irregular fever we can see in the influenza infection. Right? Next one is stadium fever, fastigium fever or stadium fever. Stadium means steady. There are no fluctuations like in irregular fever. Okay. Body temperature rises to the maximum level, maybe 106 degree Fahrenheit, and it stays at the maximum level before it is going to reach to the normal body temperature. Before it is going to reach the normal body temperature, the fever reaches to the very maximum level and stays there for few days. That is called as stadium fever or fastigium fever. Next one is lysis fever. The name itself it is saying lysis means breakdown or zigzag. So this lysis is a zigzag manner fever. So once the temperature is reached to the maximum, so before it is coming to the normal, it comes like zigzag manner. Doesn't come suddenly like crisis fever. Where we have seen crisis fever, what it was? The temperature from very high temperature comes down to the normal very suddenly. That is crisis. But whereas lysis fever in a stepwise manner, as we are coming down or staircases climbing down, so in that same way that fever comes down step by step in a zigzag manner before coming to the normal. So temperature breaks down. That is called as lysis fever. Next one is hyperpyrexia or hyperthermia. Don't get confused with the the fever and pyrexia. The people will say that hyperpyrexia is called as fever. No, actually hyperpyrexia is totally different from pyrexia and fever, because if the body temperature rises more than the normal, called as pyrexia or fever, and whereas hyper, in the name itself it is saying, right, fever is there but it is hyper. If the temperature rises more than the 104 degree Fahrenheit to 106 degree Fahrenheit, that is called as hyperpyrexia or hyperthermia. Hyperthermia. Now let us see causes of the fever. Actually, what causes fever? When microorganism, when foreign body enters into our body, then our body's immune system acts against the foreign body. Then it causes the fever. Mainly pathogens causes fever. What are the pathogens? Bacteria, virus, fungi, then protozoans. All this comes under the pathogen. If any pathogen enters into our body, reacts as a fever in the form of fever. And infections, any infections. After entering pathogen, what causes? It causes infection, right? So where all the infection takes place? From systematic wise. So neuritis or meningitis is caused by a bacteria, right? And neural infections are like otherwise brain infections or brain cover infections, respiratory tract infections, lung infections, urinary tract infections, GI infections, gastrointestinal infections, musculoskeletal infections. All these infections causes fever. Causes fever. The main causes are pathogenic entry and all the systematic infections causes fever. Now let us see the converting scale. Converting scale from Celsius to Fahrenheit and from Fahrenheit to Celsius. So now let us see from Celsius to Fahrenheit. If the body temperature they gave in the Fahrenheit, how we can convert into the Celsius? The formula is F minus 32 into 5 divided by 9. Let us see one solution for this one. If the body temperature is 104 degree Fahrenheit minus 32 into 5 by 9, and if we deduct 32 from 104, 72, and 72 into 5 by 9. 9 8 ja 32. Sir, 72. 9 8 ja 72. Okay. 8 into 5 is equal to 40 degree Celsius. It is very simple. If you remember the formula is from Celsius to from Fahrenheit to Celsius, converting formula is F minus 32 into 5 by 9. F minus 32 into 5 by 9. Now let us see the converting formula for Celsius to Fahrenheit. We have seen Celsius to Fahrenheit. Now let us to see Fahrenheit to Celsius. From this very formula, from this same formula, we can get another formula for the Fahrenheit. We will keep this F in the same place and we are shifting this total formula onto the left side. When we shift this formula to the left, this divide reverse gets reversed. 9 by 5. C into 9 by 5. Bracket. When this minus value comes onto the left side, it turns as plus. Plus 32. Let us see one solution. What is the normal body temperature in Celsius? 37 degree Celsius into 9 by 5. 6, 7 ja is 35. If we add 2 is remaining, right? If we keep point, add 0 to 2, now it is 20. 5 4 ja is equal to 20. 20 into 9 plus 32. Now 9 4 ja is 36. 6. 9 7 ja is 63. 63 plus 3 is 66. 66.6 plus 32 is equal to 98.6 degree Fahrenheit. It is the normal body temperature in Fahrenheit. This is a very simple formula. If you remember one formula, then you can, from one formula you can make second formula also. Understood? This is very simple. So this is all about we have seen today. Pyrexia, fever. What is pyrexia? Definition we have seen. Grades of pyrexia, types of pyrexia, causes of pyrexia, and converting formula for fever from Fahrenheit to Celsius and Celsius to Fahrenheit. Thank you.